So, Dr. J, how does being childless or child-free impact my finances?
Good question, and I appreciate you use both terms, child free and childless. And I want to start with the terminology for a second. The terminology is not what matters here. Really, what we're talking about is how your financial plan changes when kids are no longer in the picture. So whether you chose that, not by choice, however you got there in your life, that's up to you. The question is, well, then how does my financial plan change once I get to that point? And that's the important thing. We probably sometimes spend too much time on the terminology, even in the financial world. We use all these like big terms that mean nothing, like seriously. So let's focus on how does it change your finances once you get to that point. Does that make sense, Katie?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, first thing I want you to keep in mind is if you just on the internet, you look up financial advice, whatever it is, they all assume you have kids. That's just kind of the assumption, just it's built into every rule. You'll see in the financial literature, they'll talk about like, well, what happens when like you're an empty nester or, you don't have kids yet, but there's always in the plan some kids. So what that means is most generic advice does not fit you. And I say that just to get it out there. You can still follow it, but you may end up in a different place where you are not. The other one that happens there is if you've seen all like these numbers like by 40, I should have X amount of money or by blah, blah. All of those assume you have kids. So you're comparing against a group that is not you. So one of the things we do is we actually are working on figuring out some benchmarks for child-free folks for finances. Hopefully sometimes that'll happen. But what's more important is measuring against you in your life. And the way I look at it is being child-free changes both the foundation of your financial plan and the outcomes. So let's start with like the end first. So Katie, do you care about how much money you have when you pass? Like, when you die, do you care how much money you have left? Sorry to ask it so harshly, but
I feel like as long as I know that I can care for myself up until the day I die, I don't really care what exists after that.
by the way, that is the standard answer from child-free, childless people. Is I don't know, probably 95% of the people that I've worked with said, if I have my last $100 in my hand, I'm okay. Like I don't want to run out of money, but I don't care how much goes to whatever. So like for me and my wife, anything left over goes to nephews. But if they get $500 or 5,000, doesn't matter. So that changes your outcome because most financial plans try to assume, hey, I'm giving something to the next generation. They call it intergenerational wealth. I need to have a big number at the end. Well, if you're doing your financial plan to get to the end, and you're like, I have $1 million left over. That was $1 million you could have spent. Like you could have done something, or you could have not worked. Okay, there's a separate video on Die with Zero, but I mean, it's your money. I mean, Katie, if you died with $1 million, you think that would be a success or a failure?
I mean, just hearing you put this in a context, I immediately, as soon as you said you died with $1 million and you could have spent it, started thinking about like all the trips I would have gone on and like, yeah, years not working or $1 million is a lot to play with. So I'm sure I could have found something fun to do with it.
Oh, I'm sure you could. We could all start, thinking about it. That's the fun of like being in the Powerball, the lottery, or whatever. It's like, what would I do if? It's not that you're going to win. You're not. Seriously. But it's just fun to think about what would happen if. So here's the thing. If your goal is not to have money to give on, then what we do is we say, okay, we'll figure out a plan for long-term care. Separate video on that. Put off Social Security till 70. And then we try to spend your money in between. We can put a little cushion to help you at the end. But it's about creating that life you want. That's why we end up with this FILE approach, financial independence to live early, tuning up or down the amount of work to match you. Maybe retiring early. I don't know. Maybe starting a new business. Because what happens is living a life of child-free wealth means you have the time, money, and freedom to do what you want. So here's what kind of one of the fun ones. In the census, they found that single childless women have the highest net worth over 55. Now, by the way, it's not a huge difference, but they win. And people go, well, probably that should be like higher because they don't have kids. I go, no, it doesn't have to be because maybe they just enjoyed their life and weren't worried about saving it. So you need to think about what your money's doing and why. I often have these conversations with people going, what are your goals? And then they go, okay, my goal is I want to have $1 million. Cool. And then they get to 1 million. They're like, I'm like, now what are you going to do? They're like, we'll go for 2 million. I'm like, no, like go enjoy it. So that's part of it. Some of the other things, big things with Childfree, life insurance, not a big deal for most Childfree people. Probably not worth it. Disability insurance is a big issue. We've got to make sure we have covered. Long-term care, always something we worry about. Who's going to take care of me older? We figure that out. But it also will change things like which investment accounts you should use. Because if you're going to retire at 45, we want to have more money in a taxable account than in your retirement account that we could get to it. So it changes a little bit of everything. Now, I know that's not really helpful because what's happening is I did an article for financial planners to like learn about the child-free community. And at one point it was like 15 things that are different about finances of your child-free. And then when I got done, I was like, you know what? Name something that is not different. And that's kind of where we're at. So here's the thing. All of the videos in this system, all of the courses, everything, assume you are child-free. If you're watching this and you have kids, this is not good advice for you. Just not the right place. Everybody else, this is your place. I call it picking a recipe. If you're going to like make brownies or you're going to make cookies, you make brownies or cookies. You don't make both at the same time. This is one set of recipes specifically for child-free and childless folks. Now, by the way, technical thing, it's for those who are permanently childless. If you still think kids are going to be part of the picture, once again, not perfect fit for you. And you can work this through. What I encourage you is wander through, look at the topics that matter to you, but think about kind of like, what do I want to do with my life? It's that question of what do you want to do when you get older? And it's like, or when I grow up, and I'm like, I don't know. Like, at what age do I have to decide that? But it is a different way of life.